only the thumbnail photos and the sources of them. So instead of having to read through understanding farm secret, all of these things, I can now take any of these photos and put them into a browser, and it would actually show me a photo. We're working on an interface inside the console that will preview photos and images and all kind of things, but right now we only want to give you data because that's what you will use in the end as well. So as you see, with a simple statement that is actually pretty simple English and SQL, I can actually call two APIs inside Flickr, and if you have realized something, I did not need to authenticate. Because Flickr Photo Search needs authentication in the main API, but as you go in through YQL and you have a Yahoo login, you don't need to authenticate at all. So that saved me now from reading the documentation, that saved me from understanding where the endpoint of that API is, and it saved me from authenticating with Flickr because I'm already going through a system from Yahoo. And that made it much, much simpler to build really cool mashups, to build really good things with that. So we have everything in there that Yahoo has to offer, and I'm going through the Geo APIs later on. But the problem that I said before is that right now I'm actually looking at photos from Jordan, which might actually be Jordan the lady and not Jordan the wonderful country. So I have to make sure that I define Jordan as a country before I start searching in Flickr. And I do that with our Geo API. So if I look at the Geo API here, and I look for Geo countries, for example, I can actually say select star from Geo countries where place is North America, or I can say where place is Jordan. And then I get all information about Jordan that we have in our data sets that I'm going to talk about later on as well. So now I don't have any results because the HTTP status is 404. Interesting. Let's try that again. Sometimes there's connectivity issues on wireless. Okay, wonderful. That's the Geo Places then, which is the more generic version of Geo Countries. And in there now I actually have Jordan, I have the country code JO, and I've got the latitude and longitude, which is the center of the country. But more importantly, I also get a bounding box. If you ever want to display maps on an interface, you have to have a bounding box, because otherwise it's now going into the middle of Jordan to the highest zoom level. So basically I see like this instead of the whole country. So with the bounding box information, I also get the whole country, and that is the information that I have right now. And it found also a town called Jordan in the United States. You see also that it gave me the Jordan version here, so it's a country first. So it filters it by weight. It's countries first, then places. It also, if it's 5 different places with the same name, it finds my geographical location right now and gives me the nearest one to me. So if I do a search for for Birmingham, when I'm in England, I find Birmingham first in England rather than Birmingham in New England, which is next to Boston, which doesn't make any sense to me in this case. So now I have actually Jordan as a country, and I want to define it. And for defining something, we have a Where on Earth ID. The Where on Earth ID is something that Yahoo gives every place on Earth. Well, places that we indexed so far, not all of them yet. But why do we do this? Because latitude and longitude is not as a way to define something. The latitude and longitude of Jordan, for example, could be the middle of the country, but could also be a place on top of that latitude and longitude. So they would share the same information. So we have to do something to define things uniquely on this planet. That's why we use the Where on Earth ID. So instead of doing a text for Jordan and getting all the information back, all I want to have is the Where on Earth ID. And to make the data set really small, I limit it to the first one. So that's like any SQL you've ever done, any database that you access. We don't do the full SQL stack, but everything that you can think of, like sorting and uniquing, all of these things can be done in YQL before you get your data back from a web service. And now I actually have the place, and I've got the Where on Earth ID. I've got the XML namespace here because XML people hate humans. And they always come back with that one. So I can now take a query inside YQL and put it into another query with a parenthesis. And now I can say select star from Flickr Photo Search where an Earth ID in the other statement. In the other statement. And now I define Jordan, and then I find the where on Earth ID, and then I search Flickr by where on Earth ID and not by the name Jordan. So that way I actually make sure, so under the hood it found the where Yahoo APIs.com, which are Geo APIs, and the Flickr APIs. It tells me how long it took and which build version was there. So if there's bugs and you want to report them back to YQL, always tell them about the build version here. And now I get photos back that will be definitely from Jordan, because somebody took the photos on Flickr and dragged them onto the map to actually place them in Jordan, and that's where the where on Earth ID came from. So that way I have a safe way of displaying photos. I can now actually say and license equals 4, and that way I have a Creative Commons license that I talked before, and this one means, okay, nobody here licenses their photos with Creative Commons, so you could not be able to actually show that on a live website. But for London, for example, you find a lot of photos that you're allowed to display. And before that, before YQL, I had to do the search inside Flickr. I had to find out which was Jordan, which was not Jordan. So I had to use the Geo API and then go through Flickr again through another system. And now I can actually play with any of our data sets by using this simple YQL-like SQL-like language called YQL. And let's see if one of these search things works, because it's rather annoying right now. No?
Actually, I think the problem is here. When I connected to London, it's working fine. It's returning results.
Okay, so it's basically blocking the area here, or? Interesting. Okay, not to fret, because we can come back to that later. So, what if you think Yahoo is not enough? 110 APIs to play with, not enough, really. It's just that's just lame. So that's why we pulled this little data thing in there. If you open the data block, you see all kind of data stuff. So you see beautiful things like atoms, CSV, data URI, feed, HTML, JSON, microformats, RSS, URI, template, XML, XSLT. That means anything that comes from the web that has a certain format, I can use in YQL. Say, for example, companies that haven't understood that giving out data for free is a good idea, like CNN.com. I can say select star from HTML where URL equals HTTP CNN.com. And that one now goes to CNN.com and gets their homepage as HTML. If they don't want us to do it, they put the Yahoo crawler in the robots.txt, and then we're blocked. And we don't go over that. It's like if you don't want us, we don't go there. But now I actually get the HTML off the homepage of CNN.com. It's also real HTML, XML compliant, because we run it through HTML tidy. So even if you use the content management system that hates end users, it actually turns it into HTML that can be used properly. Now I can do that on the command line. I could go to the command line right now and actually just do a curl http cnn.com, and I would get the same thing. And then I would start getting creative. Hey, actually from the command line doesn't allow me to. Interesting. Then I would get creative. I would start writing my regular expressions. I would start going XML comparison. Where do I find that information in a certain HTML page? And that is just annoying, because most of the time they forgot a quotation mark somewhere and all these kind of things. Like parsing HTML is painful. That's why we run it through HTML tidy, and we give you an XPath interface. So if I only want to have the links of CNN.com right now, all I have to do is say nxpath equals /a, and that one now gets me all the links of CNN.com that they're talking about right now. You can do that with any website. For example, if you go to my portfolio page, icon.co.uk, and you want to have, for example, my upcoming events here, all you would have to do is you go to Firebug, after it's been finishing loading, because there's lots and lots of videos there. Or be a man and don't use Firebug and look at the source code. And in the source code I actually have my list here, and it's actually a UL with the ID travels. So I can actually get this piece of information and turn it into an XML feed or widget by just taking my URL and saying select star from HTML is my server instead of CNN.com. Okay, that's interesting. And instead of getting all the links, I would actually get the UL with the ID travels. So XPath is a W3C standard. The syntax is a bit but you can read it up easily, and once you've used it for a while. Actually, the MSDN documentation on XPath is the best I know. So now you get from my page, you actually get the travel section, only that, and you could use it into a widget. You can use it on a mobile phone. You can actually get the information like that. And this is how I actually built this whole site. So this website is not maintained by me on that server. So that hard-coded text here is the only thing. This one comes from my blog. This one comes from Delicious. This one, SlideShare, sorry. This one comes from Delicious. This one comes from Delicious. This one comes from another portfolio page I have. The books come from a blog post. And the ways to contact me is actually hard-coded again. So I'm uploading slides to SlideShare, I'm bookmarking things on Delicious, and I'm using YQL to put them all together into one interface and display them. So this is how easily you can actually do that for any of your clients as well. So this one is another example that I built with that, and the source code of that is available. And that one just does a lot of HTML scraping, where it gets, for example, for Tokyo, the city, it gets the first two paragraphs of Wikipedia. It shows you a Yahoo map of it. It finds photos from Flickr, like I showed you before, that are actually WOID for Tokyo. Events from upcoming, the weather from Yahoo Weather, and the whole thing is 15 lines of PHP, because I'm using YQL to filter all the data before I actually build an interface on top of that. So you can do that with any data that you want. So let's go back. What could we do with something like CNN.com? CNN.com has news articles right now that are that are very current. So this is the CNN.com version. Why are they all the same? Weird. So you never lose anything either. You just go through recent queries and when you've lost yourself, and then you get your information back. So these are all the links on CNN.com. I'm not caring about the rest of the link. I just want to have the content of them, and then I get the text content of the different links that are on CNN.com right now. Now, I can do something clever with that by, for example, analyzing this in a language-specific manner. Yahoo has an API called Term Extractor, which is an API where you throw a text at and it gives you back all the relevant words in that text, like all the keywords that we use for search indexing. So I can do that over content from CNN.com. So I can say select star from search term extract where context in the other statement. So now it goes to CNN.com, cleans up their HTML, only gives me the links back, gets rid of all the HTML and gives me only the text back, and runs all that text through a clever analysis to give me keywords back. So these are keywords that are right now important on CNN.com, and some of them might be double, so it's actually not really making sense to me, so I can actually say unique them for me, where the field is called result. And that one sorts it out nicer. So you can do that with like 6-7 different news sources, and you will get keywords that are right now very, very important. And I've done that and put a little interface around it and called it keywordfinder.org. So this one does it with search engines and with news engines, where you can say find keyword for cat right now, for example. And under the hood, it does exactly what I just showed you